Hi, I'm Tom from Advocult Motorsport, and today we're going to do a walkthrough on our latest RX7 single turbo build. So the car came into us a little while ago just for a quick inspection and a service. It was a new car to our customer, and it was still on twins, on an Apexi ECU, and he had a few boosting issues, just no second turbo. So we went through the car with the customer, highlighted a few issues, and this is where the build started. The customer was really happy with how the car was styled. It's got the REM EMEA kit and it looks great, but he wanted to add some of his own touches. So we started chopping up the bonnet, which was a bit scary, and added some Car Shop Glow carbon bonnet vents and also the aero catches. And then the only other thing we added to the front was this universal front splitter, which really adds quite a bit more aggression to the front, and it matches the rest of the styling on the side. Coming to the back of the car, we also made these custom spoiler stands. The original spoiler was just a little bit too low in comparison to the rest of the body. We also added another Car Shop Glow rear lip and a universal diffuser. Chassis-wise, we didn't really have to touch anything on this car. It came to us already incredibly well set up. It's got quantum coilovers, every chassis brace you could ask for, and all the bushes were in excellent condition. So we just went round, did a full bolt check, and a fresh alignment. So moving on to the interior, we just added the RX7 Essentials with these NRG bucket seats and matching red floor mats. We also changed the shifter, and one of the nicest parts of this is our custom printed 3D gauge holder, which holds the air fuel ratio gauge and the boost gauge. It keeps everything nice and in eye line without being too in your face. And the last thing we touched in the interior was this Haltech rotary position switch, which gives the customer the chance to choose his boost level depending on how wet it is. And the final part of the interior was the boot. It came to us already with this battery box, which worked out really nice. We've just upgraded the battery to an Optima. We also carpet lined the boot because before it was just a sheet of aluminium that was painted and it looked a little rough. And the major change in the boot was the addition of the radium surge tank. This is essential on these cars. If you're going to start doing any hard cornering, you suffer a lot from fuel slosh with the stock fuel tank. So we tried to make this integrated and make a bit of a showpiece of it. So it's all mounted to the chassis. It's all nice and safe, and all the fuel lines run through bulkhead fittings straight under the car. And now we're onto the engine bay, which is where the majority of the work has been carried out. So with the car coming to us on the original twin turbos, there was a lot of work to do in here to convert it to single. We did already have a nice V-mount setup that just needed to be modified slightly to accommodate the Borgwarner, and we also updated some of the ducting down the side because it wasn't really optimized. And we just had to prioritize fueling, cooling, and heat management. In the RX7, heat management is a big problem, just because the rotary runs so hot. So we gutted the entire engine bay, and we started talking about engine bay design quite early on into the build. Quite often you see RX7s that look as immaculate as this on the outside, but there's been very little consideration to how it looks when you open the bonnet. The target horsepower level for this car was 400 wheel horsepower, which we have managed to achieve, but we also wanted to do it in a way that was serviceable, and when you pop the bonnet it looks really, really nice. So the fuel system on this car is our go-to setup of both radium fuel rails, Injector Dynamics injectors. We've got 1050 primaries and 1700 secondaries. We're also using the radium regulator, and because this car had the Auto EXC engine brace, we really wanted to try and tidy things up a little bit. So with the addition of these panels that cover what I think are the ugly parts of the engine bay. We made sure that we made a bit of a showpiece of the pressure regulator and put it right at the front of the engine. It made it a bit difficult with organising the fuel lines, but we got it all in there nice and compact. The turbo is a Borgwarner 362. It's externally gated, and we use the Advocult Motorsport manifold. It's got two Turbo Smart wastegates with the dump tubes just go into atmosphere. The customer wanted something that's a little more flamboyant noise-wise to match the outside, so we didn't recirculate those back into the exhaust. This turbo will make a really responsive setup. We never opened the engine because it had great compression, so we don't really know what the port-in is. And with a turbo this size, you'll get great response, a really good power band, and you still have the capability to make a little more power than the 400 wheel horsepower if you just up the boost a little bit. As with any turbo engine car, you have to give great consideration to heat management. So the exhaust system is 3-inch turbo back. Sometimes people can get a little carried away and go quite large on these, but 3 inches is more than enough to make 400 wheel horsepower. But with the amount of heat these cars put out, we fully wrapped the exhaust system in DEI exhaust wrap, and we've also got the DEI turbo blanket on there as well. We keep these products in stock because they are just excellent quality. And the final main component to any single turbo build is the ignition system. We're just using AEM smart coils in a direct fire output. And this means that you can easily manage that kind of horsepower and not face any ignition issues. And so with all those components together, this built what we think is the perfect, reliable, powerful RX7. We paid a lot of attention to the aesthetics of the engine bay with some aftermarket pulleys and put in a lot of thought into where the main components of the engine sit in relation to each other and how it looks when you open the bonnet. We literally touched everything in this engine bay apart from the inside of the engine, repainted and recoated a lot of things just to keep them fresh and make them look like they've just come off the production line. We're really happy with how this engine bay looks, and we definitely integrate a lot of these parts that we've done into future builds. If you'd like any specific information about the parts used on this build, please get in touch with us at info@advocultmotorsport.co.uk.